Remote jobs are the epitome of flexibility and opportunity. But what if I told you that there's more to the story? Having been in a remote job for over a year, I can talk from my experience as we uncover 5 crucial problems in remote work that you must be aware of. But before that, please subscribe to this channel. It'll help me a lot. Let's get started. The first and the biggest problem with remote work is money. Literally everywhere you look, there is stashes of money stacked away. Okay. I'm kidding. I wish it were true. I wish I was not kidding. Let's get started really. Number 1, taxation. If you're not working through a partner like a remote.com or an equivalent, you might have to manage your taxes yourself. And depending on your home country, this can be fairly challenging. Now, dealing with an accountant is not my greatest thrill in life. It takes consistent effort to keep your books in order, to ensure your taxes are filed regularly, all forex remittances rules are complied with. And these are things that you just cannot slack, because there are legal implications of this if you mess up here. Solution: hire an accountant who has experience with foreign remittances and who's got clients in the software industry and who's familiar with the taxation laws in your remote working country.
It's simple.
Once you do manage to find this person, life gets a little bit easier. All you have to do is produce the bazillion documents they need every single month, and then prepare for the quarterly audit every quarter, and then the yearly audit that they do on all your finances.
It's simple.
Number 2, loneliness. Now, if you're used to going to office, even if it is a couple of days in a week, this will be the hardest one. There is an innate amount of innocent fun in bitching about your boss, talking about the weather, and generally about life. The biggest thing I miss is the tea time banter with friends. Also, the opportunity to walk into a colleague's office and talk things out face to face is a whole different thing. The solution: always on camera. That helps to develop a sense of connection and to schedule banter time meetings. This is a time when you get to bond and you get to enjoy. Another thing that's worked well for me is frequent visits to my remote office, especially if there is an off-site workshop or a strategy discussion happening. They're kind enough to invite me over in person. It creates a bond and a feeling that Savinder's here only. He's a part of us. Another thing which I do is to be fairly open with my colleagues that I interact to on a day-to-day basis in order to combat that loneliness. And then just last week, there was a massive discount at a local shopping mall, and my wife really wanted to go before the rush came in. And I went on to the Teams and I spoke to my colleague, "Hey dude, here's what it is. I will miss the stand-up today." You know what he said? "Of course, go ahead, do your thing. Let me know when you're back and we will discuss about that thing." And once I was back in the afternoon, I gave him a call. We discussed what we had to discuss and shit got done. And there was no loneliness. Number 3, isolation of boundaries. One of the most talked about perks of remote work is the flexibility you have to manage your schedules. But there's another side to the story. We often ourselves end up blurring the boundaries between work and personal time and life. Sometimes you get so deep in work that because you do not have to return home, you just continue working. And there's no isolation between work and home. Solution: have a dedicated office room or an office space. Get into that space when you're working, and when you're done, get out of that space. Dress well for work. At least waist up. Shorts is okay if you're remote working. Maintain office hours as much as possible. Don't bring your office onto the bed or your lunch into your work desk. Maintain isolation of boundaries. I have a dedicated setup where I work, and that's the only place that I work from. When I'm working from projects that are outside of work, like research for my YouTube videos or writing a personal blog, I try and do it at another location. I sit in the balcony amongst the plants, I sit at the dining table, or I just plonk myself on the beanbag. That helps with the isolation of boundaries. Number 4, time zone. Now, depending on your remote working country, this could be a big one. If you're based in India and remote working in the US, it's a tough one. You have to completely adjust your body clock to be active in the time zone that your colleagues are. That's just the inherent expectation. What's the solution? Once you establish yourself within the organization, request your colleagues to adjust the timing of regular cadence meetings like stand-ups, etc. If you ask politely and explain the time difference, you'll be surprised on how accommodating your colleagues are. But you have to ask. Become a master of asynchronous communication. Whenever you have a task, think asynchronous first and then approach it. Don't just set up meetings for everything around the sun. And when you get an email or a message on Teams, you do not have to respond to it within the next 30 seconds. If there's an emergency, the folks know how and where to catch you, and they will. So I have built my own strategy for time zones over the period of time. When I was in Zensar, couple of years in India and then couple of years in the UK, I used to work across multiple time zones. I had customers and teams in UK, in US, both East and West Coast, and in South Africa. So even if I worked 24/7, there was no way I could still cover everybody. So over a period of time, I evolved a strategy that worked for me. The strategy was simple. Between 6 and 9:30 p.m. is my personal family time. No calls happen during that time. That's the time when I play with my daughter. That's the time I make dinner with my wife. We love spending time in the kitchen and making different cuisines together. That's the time when we have dinner as a family together. That's the time when I put my daughter to bed. And then around 9:30, 10, I'm rejuvenated. I was back to work to take calls and meetings in other different time zones. Now, did this work all the time? Not really, but it did work most of the times. And my colleagues and customers knew about this because I had communicated this and they respected that. So the secret, define your time zones, respect your time zones, communicate and ask others to respect your time zone as well. Trust me, you'll be surprised on how receptive others are once they understand where you're coming from. In my current job, I only have a 1.5 hour time difference between India and Tbilisi. So this isn't a much of a challenge for me as of today. Number 5, first language. Now, if your remote working colleagues have a different first language than yours, this could be slightly challenging. Everyone defaults to their own first language when they're excited or when they're angry. It's just understandable and natural. As an organization moves into remote work, this is something that has to be resolved to get the remote workers productive. But to be honest, it's a two-way street. The folks have to make a conscious effort to talk in the common language, say English, and as a remote worker, I have to make a conscious effort to learn a bit of their language as well. With efforts from both sides, this is definitely workable. Initially, when I joined the bank, started learning a bit of Georgian. In fact, on my first visit to Georgia, I did my 1-minute introduction in Georgian. That honest attempt helped make a good connection. Like they say, there is nothing that cannot be resolved by efforts from two parties together. Number 6, and a bonus tip, love thy colleagues. Remote work is hard, especially if you're not working in a remote first company where everybody is remote and everybody is working across the world. That is a different set of experience which I've not had yet, so I can't comment on it. If there's one thing that I learned in my last 1 year of remote work, It is this: be honest. Everyone can sense and appreciate your pure intention with honest efforts. Love thy colleagues and they will love you back. And that makes life easy for all of us. Hope this video gave you some practical insights into remote working and its challenges. Let me know in the comments on what you resonated with the most. Also, let me know if there's another topic that you want me to make a video on. And please subscribe to the channel. It means a lot for me. See you in the next one. Cheers.